Imagine your HOA deciding your motorcycle should be rehomed to a teenager 2 doors down, like a stray cat, because it's, quote, more harmonious for the neighborhood. What would you do if a clipboard with a smile tried to take your freedom on 2 wheels? I mean, seriously, picture a quiet Saturday. Porch coffee. Sunlight spilling like warm honey over the driveway. And then a kid points at your Harley and says, dead calm. Mom says you're giving me that. Who I am. Why this matters. My name's Mason. But most neighbors call me Mace. Mid-40s. Contractor hands. Church on Sundays. Ride on Saturdays. I've got a black and chrome Harley. I've cared for more than a decade longer than I've owned my current house. If we're being honest, that bike got me through a bad year. The road stitching my head back together when words couldn't. The sound isn't noise to me. It's medicine. Our subdivision's got the usual manicured hedges. Synchronized mailboxes. A pool. You gotta book weeks in advance. And the HOA run by a board that rotates every few years. Except for one constant, Karen. Keep the name. It fits the vibe. Sunglasses that never come off. A tote full of rule binders. And a voice that's always set to announcement. The first tap on the glass. It started small. A note tucked under my doormat, courtesy reminder, limit engine revving before 8 a.m. Fair enough. I don't rev. I warm up. I started rolling the bike down the driveway before I hit the starter. I'm neighborly like that. Then came a second note. Per community harmony standards. Visible mechanical equipment in driveways is discouraged. Visible, mechanical, equipment. You mean my motorcycle? I shrugged. Parked closer to the garage. Even tossed a cover over it when I wasn't riding. You give grace where you can. You know the day the kid came shopping a week later. Right after lunch. A teenager strolls down my driveway with the confidence of a delivery driver. He points at my Harley and says, I'll take that one. I blink. Come again, Mom said, you were donating it to me. He says, HOA told her you hardly ride. It's wasted. I laugh. Because, what else do you do with absurdity? I ride every weekend. And I don't donate what I own because someone's bored. He pulls out his phone. She told me to show you this. It's a text thread with his mom Karen saying something like, he agreed in principle to rehome the bike. The board will support it. I take a breath. Your mom is mistaken. He shrugs like he's returning a defective lamp and wanders off. That shrug follows me around all afternoon. Like a fly, you can't quite swat. Karen arrives with a smile you can hear that evening. There's the light, knock knock knock, of someone who expects the door to be opened. I crack it. Karen stands there with 2 board members flanking her like notaries. Mason, she says. Voice dipped in sweet tea. We're streamlining driveway aesthetics. Large equipment, including motorcycles, should be stored out of sight. I understand you've got sentimental feelings here. So this is generous. We have a plan. My son, Tyler, will store and maintain the bike. It will still be nearby. You mean he'll own it? If we're getting technical, she says. With that smile. It's a transfer. Consider it a goodwill gesture. The board appreciates volunteers. I don't blink. I'm not transferring anything. Her smile chirps. Then, we'll have to proceed with formal notice. Proceed, I say. And close my gate on your way out. The letter that didn't say what it said. The notice arrives 3 days later on OAA letterhead. Community Harmony Citation. Persistent visual clutter. It cites a section in the covenants. conditions, and restrictions, CCRs that, if you squint and tilt your head, might apply to broken lawnmowers with weeds sprouting through them. My bike is not that. There's a fine schedule attached. Day 1 warning. Day 10, $50. Day 30, escalating. Somewhere buried in the paragraph, soup remedies include abatement. Abatement, a meaning they think they can remove the nuisance. I call Bill, the HOA president, soft-spoken, decent man. Never raised his voice at the pool gate, even when kids cannonballed the no jumping sign. Bill, I say. Did you approve this? He sighs. Karen pushed it through as an interim measure. She says there's neighborhood concern. From who? There's a pause. I can't disclose specific complainants. Then I'm gonna disclose something. I say. I'm appealing. And I'm requesting the full CCRs and meeting minutes. I spend an afternoon at the clerk's office making copies of the CCRs because the PDF Karen emailed had missing pages. Paper doesn't gaslight you. The clerk, older gentleman with a bow tie and the patience of a saint, helps me highlight sections. Turns out, abatement requires a safety hazard finding. A parked, registered motorcycle under a cover isn't a safety hazard by any definition printed in that binder. While I'm there, a woman in line hears me say HOA and leans over. We had a Karen. She whispers, document everything. Don't text, email, and get a paper trail with signatures. I nod. Because wisdom doesn't always come dressed like a lawyer. The next weekend, I roll the Harley down to the curb, thumb the starter, and let her idle for under a minute while I tighten a strap on my bag. Sirens. 2 squad cars pull up like they rehearsed it. An officer steps out, hand respectfully at his belt. Sir, we received a report of a disturbance and a possible stolen vehicle. I blink. This bike's mine. Karen appears, as if conjured by the scent of authority. Officer, that motorcycle was promised to my son. He's emotionally invested. Mr. Mason reneged. The officer looks between us. Do you have proof of ownership? Title in the house? I say. Registration in my wallet. I hand him the registration. Then, because I've learned, pull up a scanned copy of the title on my phone. 2. The second officer returns from my porch, where I'd authorized a quick look at the file folder on the foyer table. He nods to his partner. It's his. Karen's face tightens like a seam pulled too hard. He's disturbing the peace. The officer glances at his watch. It's just after 10 in the morning on a Saturday. A short idle isn't a violation of any ordinance. They leave. Karen doesn't. She stands at the curb and stares like she can will the chrome into sand. Go home. Karen, I say. Please. She whispers. This isn't over. I believe her. What follows is a barrage. Notices in my mailbox. Visual clutter. Noise complaint. Failure to be neighborly. The fines stack like poker chips I never agreed to play with. Each letter cites a different clause. Some stretched so thin you can see daylight through them. I reply to every single one brief. Calm. And with a request for the specific vote or meeting that authorized the citation. I also ask for the names of the complaining parties. The answers duck and weave. Board discretion. Anonymous reports. Interim authority. I build a binder. Tabs. Copies of every notice. My responses. The original CCRs with the full text highlighted. My dated photos bike under a cover. Parked on my property. Not blocking a sidewalk. Not leaking oil. Not doing anything except existing. I add a log of interactions. Dates. Times. Witnesses. I include 2 neighbor statements, Denise across the street and Tom next door. Both willing to say the bike doesn't bother them. I'm not a paperwork guy by nature. I'd rather paint a fence than read about paint colors. But I felt the ground tilt under me and knew I needed traction. Paper is traction. Bill asks to meet at the clubhouse informally. When I arrive, he's there with 2 board members, a nervous accountant named Glenn, and a retired teacher, Maria, who has the kind eyes of someone who's seen all kinds of parents. Bill steeples his fingers. We don't want this to get ugly. Then stop letting Karen weaponize the rules. I say, gentle but direct. Show me the vote that created the visible mechanical equipment policy for driveways. Glenn leafs through a folder. We have a draft. It hasn't been ratified. Then you can't enforce it. I say, that's not how any of this works. Maria leans forward. Karen says you promised the motorcycle to her son. I look her in the eye. I did not. She told her son I did. That's different. Bill rubs his forehead. We'll put it on the agenda for the next open meeting. You'll have the floor. Good. I say. Because I'm bringing copies. The day before the meeting, I knock on doors. Not to campaign, just to ask if folks feel heard by the HOA. Turns out, when you tap a quiet street, it hums. Denise tells me Karen cited her for a wreath that wasn't seasonally appropriate. Tom got a warning because his American flag holder was angled improperly. An elderly couple down the block, Art and Louise, were fined for excessive lawn length while Art was recovering from back surgery. A single mom, Bree, whispers that Karen followed her teenage son with a camera to document curfew violations. I tell each of them the same thing. Come to the meeting. Tell the truth. Bring dates. The showdown night. The clubhouse fills with folding chairs and that familiar smell of coffee and dry erase markers. Bill calls the meeting to order. Old business drifts by like tumbleweeds. Then, new business item 1. Driveway mechanical equipment and noise complaints. Karen straightens. Ready to monologue, but Bill nods to me. Mr. Mason, the floor is yours. I stand with my binder. I keep my voice low, steady, neighborly. I walk through the timeline, the notes. The kid's driveway visit. The notices. The police call. The fines that multiplied like rabbits. I hold up the CCRs and read the exact lines that define abatement and nuisance. Nowhere. I say, does a parked, covered, registered motorcycle become a hazard just because someone doesn't like how it looks? I lay out printed photos, my bike under a cover, the curb clear, the sidewalk open. I hand Bill copies of my letters and their replies. I add 2 short statements from Denise and Tom. Then, gently, I speak to the human part. This is my therapy on 2 wheels. I've never peeled out at midnight. I push the bike to the curb before I start it. I wave to kids. I show 'em how a polite rider acts. There's a quiet ripple in the room. Even Glenn nods. Karen rises like steam. He promised the bike to my son. She says, he told Tyler it would be his. Respectfully. I say, that's not true. A teenage groan detonates from the back. Tyler stands. Arms folded. Mom. He never said that. You said he was gonna. You said you'd make it happen. The room inhales. Karen's cheeks flush. Sit down. Tyler. Bill clears his throat. Thank you. Tyler. He looks at Karen. Is there a board-approved policy regarding visible mechanical equipment? Karen slides a sheet forward. A draft. We've been operating under interim authority. Maria speaks up. We can't enforce a draft. Glenn fidgets. We also can't levy fines retroactively on a rule that wasn't ratified. Bill exhales. Then all citations on this matter are void. A soft murmur moves through the chairs. I feel my shoulders drop. You'd think that would be the end. But control doesn't apologize when cornered, it shapeshifts. The next morning I get a new notice. Community disruption, aggressive demeanor at meeting. It threatens a hearing and possible suspension of clubhouse privileges. I laugh out loud, then I don't. Because even nonsense burns time. I send a simple reply. Please provide the bylaw allowing punitive action for speaking at an open meeting during my allotted time. Also, provide a copy of the approved minutes. I was polite, and within time. Several neighbors will attest. I attach 5 signatures. Because Denise organized a little wave of common sense overnight. Bree adds a note about her own experience. Art stooped, but fierce writes in shaky pen that the HOA's job is to help, not bully. Bill emails me privately. Please ignore that notice. It shouldn't have been sent. I don't ignore it. I ask for a retraction on letterhead. The invisible rules get light a week later. 8 minutes hit the community portal. Maria has insisted on transparency. The minutes show the citations against me being nullified. But there's a curious line. Board member raises concern about board cohesion, suggests special committee for resident compliance. A compliance committee. Stacked with who? I wonder. So I request to be on it. Karen balks. Bill shrugs. Open committee. He says. Mason's in. Turns out. Sunlight is a heck of a disinfectant. When rules get read out loud in a room instead of whispered in a driveway, their edges show. We spend 2 hours the first night just naming the difference between preference and policy. The teacher in Maria can't help herself. She draws a 2-column chart on a whiteboard. Preference, I don't like the look of that. Policy, the document says this. Voted on this date. Karen fumes. Because preference was her power. A pattern emerges as we dig. Folks bring files. Bree has 3 notices with identical phrasing. Denise's wreath violation lines up word for word with Tom's flag angle warning. Art and Louise's lawn letter was dated the same week. Their hospital discharge paperwork says he wasn't allowed to mow. The pattern isn't just strictness, it's targeting. I don't accuse, I lay it out. When enforcement is inconsistent, it starts to feel personal. When it feels personal, neighbors stop trusting the board. Maria circles trust on the whiteboard. This is the whole job, she says. Not paint colors. Trust. The petition. No one expected. I'm not a revolt guy. I'm a mow your lawn, wave at sunsets guy. But by the 3rd committee meeting, a petition lands on a card table with more than half the neighborhood's names. It's simple. We request the removal of Karen from the board for misuse of authority and harassment. It wasn't my idea. Denise and an old-timer named Hank organized it after Hank got a letter about his porch swing squeaking too loudly. A porch swing. In America, the board schedules a special vote. Per the bylaws, Karen posts on the portal that she's being persecuted for upholding standards. She knocks on doors, making her case. Folks listen. Then show up anyway because the air changed. People got tired of feeling like they'd moved into a place run by a permanent frown. The night of the vote, standing room only. Bill reads the petition. Then the process. Karen speaks first. Her voice steady but sharp. I have dedicated years to keeping this community beautiful. Some people resist accountability. That's all this is. Maria speaks next. Standards matter. So does fairness. When we enforce rules not yet ratified, or we selectively target, we break trust. I'm asking for a reset. Then neighbors line up Bree. Gentle but clear. Hank with his squeaky swing story that somehow makes people laugh and wince at the same time. Art, who says 3 sentences about kindness that hit harder than any speech. I speak last. I'm not here to win a fight. I'm here to live on a street that doesn't feel like a courtroom. I'm asking for leadership that knows the difference between a covenant and a preference. And, between a neighbor and a target, ballots go out. Heads bend. Pens scratch. When they're counted. Bill clears his throat. Motion carries. The room exhales like a tire, releasing pressure. Karen gathers her tote. For a second, just a second, her face softens. Then the mask returns. And she's gone. Aftermath. A calmer street citations vanish like dandelion seeds in a gust. The board wipes my fines and issues a written apology for the misapplication of policy. The compliance committee turns into something better. A neighbor forum where we workshop common sense solutions. Like quiet hours, start at 8 at night. Not 6. Holiday lights get a grace period because real life is busy. Lawn violations don't go out the same week someone gets home from a hospital. Tom rehangs his flag. Denise puts up her wreath with a sassy little ribbon. Bree's kid skateboards on the sidewalk. Helmet on. Grin wide. Hank's porch swing squeaks like a chorus of crickets. Nobody calls it in. And my Harley. She lives where she's always lived, under a tidy cover beside the garage. Rolled to the curb before she starts. On Saturday mornings, I still push her in silence down the driveway. Only when I hit the street do I thumb the starter. The rumble is low. Warm. Familiar. People wave instead of flinch. Small human moments. One evening. Tyler, yeah. Karen's boy shows up at the edge of my driveway. Hands in pockets. Eyes on the ground. I'm sorry about that day. He mumbles. I just wanted a bike. I get it. I say, wanting is a loud thing at your age. He smirks. It's a loud thing now, too. Right, I laugh. Fair. I show him how to check tire pressure. How to listen for a clean idle. How to be the kind of rider drivers respect. He nods, like he's taking notes in his bones. We don't talk about the transfer that never was. We talk about road safety and responsibility. It feels like duct tape on a cracked fence, humble, useful, necessary. What I learned. What I tell you, I'm not handing out legal advice, nope. I'm just a neighbor with a binder now. But if your HOA starts acting like a personal fiefdom, here's what I learned the hard way. Write everything in words with dates. Not vibes. Dates. Take photos. Keep your tone calm. Ask for the vote. The bylaw. The minutes. Read the CCRs out loud to yourself, like you're proofing a recipe. Bring people with you. Bullies count on you being alone. And when the moment comes to speak, breathe slow. Don't turn the mic into a hammer. Tell the story like you're telling the truth at your own kitchen table. Folks can smell truth. They can also smell theatrics. Be the first one. Because it's still wild. If you're new here and somehow skip to the end, let me say it again. Imagine your HOA trying to rehome your motorcycle like a pet. Imagine watching your Saturday peace turn into paperwork. Then imagine a room full of neighbors deciding they're done living under a frown and choosing each other instead. All right. Your turn. What would you do in my boots? Give in just to keep the peace? Or stand your ground and, yeah, push the bike to the curb before you hit the starter? Anyone else had a HOA try to take something that was yours, your flag? Your mailbox color. Your sanity. Drop your story in the comments. I read 'em. And if this lit even a small fire under you today, tap subscribe so we can swap more stories and hopefully win a few more quiet Saturdays back.